Bash, let's go. Come on, Brandy. Come on, Cora. Let's go. Come on, let's go see Bonnie. Let's go see Bonnie. She lives with Axel now, but you can go see her. Look, there's Bonnie. Look at there. There's Miss Bonnie. There's Miss Bonnie. Yes. Come on, baby. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Oh, my goodness. Come on. Sebastian, aren't you going to come out? Oh, of course not. You're ruining my video. Why don't you come outside and poop instead of in the hallway? Come on. Come on, smart boy. He's so smart. He's a sweetheart. He's a sweet boy, Mr. Bash. I want to talk a little bit about this that time of year. People are going to start getting chicks. They're going to go to Tractor Supply, God help them, and go get some chicks. Oh my God, I would not want to buy from those people. Anyway, no, they don't breed them, but I don't know what hatchery they get them from. If you're going to buy something from a feed store, always ask them what hatchery they come from, and do a little research on satisfaction with hatcheries. After my original flock came from Ideal Poultry in Texas, which is probably one of the biggest ones there is, I would say don't buy a lot from Ideal Poultry if you want anything that looks really like the breed it's supposed to be and has the right characteristics and all that, and has any kind of health at all. You almost fell off, didn't you, Bash? I don't like Ideal Poultry. The Dirty Dozen, which used to be a dozen, now I guess it's not a dozen anymore now that I've already lost Ripley and Scarlet. They came from Cackle Hatchery. The Bantam Cochins are beautiful. They have great foot feathering, which is what they're supposed to have. The boys are sweet as they can be. They got the proper temperament for a Cochin. But, you know, Forest and Cricket both have a little hip issue. Cricket's not as pronounced as Forest. Forest is pretty bad. That's in the buff Bantam Cochins. They're both the same. They're from the same color variety. The others are fine. Even Cricket. I think Cricket's daughter, Dove, with Magnus. You know, she's a pure buff Bantam Cochin. She doesn't have a hip issue. So it's either genetic or it was an incubation issue in that batch. Sometimes incubation, things that happen during incubation can make them have strange deformities. Brandy's liking her sun bath back there next to Axel. Look at that. That's so funny. Axel and Bash will stand at that door and they won't fight. Bash doesn't fight with anybody. Bash, would you quit doing that weird gagging thing? I just don't know what the deal is with him. You got a wide back there. Back in, boy. I don't know. Anyway, people are going to go get chicks from hatcheries. Now, they're going to either mail order them from a hatchery, which I never do. I'll never have a hatchery send me birds through the mail. Brace yourself if you've never done it. When you open it up, you'll be a miracle if they're all alive. The Postal Service can't even carry a package right. How the heck are they supposed to carry live animals? They sure mutilate hatching eggs that get sent through the mail if they're not packaged properly. So, wherever you get chicks, make sure it's not from flea markets or animal auctions. That's where people pass off. That's where people pass off their problems to other people. You don't want to start out your chicken career with, let's just say, disease in your flock. You don't want a diseased flock to start with. Okay. So first off, the only chicks that were hatchery born that I ever got, they've come from feed stores. I make sure that they are not vaccinated for Marek's disease. Yeah, I said that, not vaccinated for Marek's. Some feed stores order them that way. And you don't have a choice unless you go to a different feed store, which is what I did. I checked 3 the closest feed stores in my area when I went to get those chicks, the only one that I could find that did not order them vaccinated for Merrick's was the one coincidentally owned by a veterinarian, which is good. It means he knows his stuff. And I have a video on Merrick's disease, what it is, and the vaccination for it and that kind of thing. So I would say look that up. Just go do Merrick's, and Mareks, and it'll show up. If YouTube is working right, it'll show up. So find your source, but just make sure it's not an individual. Now, a lot of people buy direct from breeders. And when I say breeder, I'm not talking about someone who bought their birds from a hatchery and hatched some eggs and decided to sell chicks. That's not it. A breeder is someone who selects for proper traits. Why do you still do that, Bash? It's driving me crazy watching him do that. Selects for proper traits. I'll have to check his ears again. I treated them for 2 weeks, and I don't know. They looked like they were clear, so I don't know what the deal is with him. But a breeder, someone who pays attention to health, they do not treat sickness. They do not treat sickness. Repeat that. A good breeder does not treat illness. They cull for illness. Euthanize. Kill the bird. Oh, that's so cruel. What if you get sick? Well, honey, humans are not avian species. Avian species have diseases that are closely related to HIV, herpes, that kind of stuff. It stays in the body of the bird permanently. Merrick's definitely does. So there is no cure. You can't vaccinate it away. And when you keep birds who are weak, and that means they've gotten sick, so they're getting weak. Now, I'm not talking about what happened to Vash's ears. I'm not talking about a hen with a reproductive malfunction. That's not a disease that is contagious from bird to bird, which is what I'm talking about. A real breeder does not keep birds who've been sick. There are some breeders who are in what they call NPIP certified, National Poultry Improvement Plan, which was never intended for backyard flocks. It was intended to protect the food supply of the country. Okay? It was people say, "Oh, I'm going to be NPIP certified." Do you really want that? You want the government in your barnyard? You want them knowing everything? You want them one day to find an illness that you could have called for, but you didn't, and they'll find it, and then if it's one of the bad ones, reportable to the state, they will bring a gas chamber to your property and they will euthanize your birds for you, and you will have to take care of the bodies. Last time I heard, they didn't take the bodies away. They just said bury them, whatever you want to do with them. So even NPIP is not a guarantee of health by a long shot. It basically looks for 2 diseases that have all but been eradicated in this country for a long time. It doesn't look for the most common diseases unless you pay for a special test, and then they only come out once a year. But if they get a clean bill of health as far as whatever they test for, that's only a clean bill of health for that day. Boy, hawks are all over today. They are flying everywhere. Oh, that's a red tail, y'all. You better watch out. That's a red tail up there. Where'd it go? Oh, it went over that way. You'll come back in. Where are you at, buddy? I'm trying to show these people. Where'd you go? Oh, it's right there. I can't see it in the view. Ah, yeah, there it is. Hawk! Hawk! I say that, they know what that means. If they haven't paid attention before, their heads come up, and usually they run in the building. You can train them for that. If you see a hawk and they're wandering around, digging around, and don't see it, all you got to do is train them to that. Because when I say it like that, it sounds like a hawk's cry, in a way. And usually they run. See, did you see that? Brandy and Cora went running inside. Bash ain't scared, are you? Hawk would have a hard time carrying you off, wouldn't he, buddy? And if a hawk dives and misses and gets and ends up on the ground, hawk's lost his advantage. But when you get chicks, I know I'm getting ADHD. Oh, look, a chicken. Oh, look, a hawk. When you get chicks, make sure you do your research. Make sure they have a big enough space. Make sure you don't put newspaper down. It's very slippery when chicks are young, and it can cause spraddle leg, which means their basically legs do the splits, and they can't walk anymore. You can treat spraddle leg with put a little Band-Aid around one leg and hook it to the other like a hobble, as long as it's not too close together. But then you have to train the chick how to stand up with a hobble on. It's a pain. It's better off just put paper towels for the first few days, and then and keep cleaning them, once a day or whatever. Get the worst of the poopy paper towels up. And then at a certain point, when they learn what food is, where their food is, and they won't mistake shavings for food, you can put some pine shavings in. Never use cedar shavings. Cedar shavings are far too aromatic to use in a coop. Now, if you sprinkle a few cedar shavings underneath the pine shavings or the hay or whatever you have as a nest box material, just a few sprinkles underneath it where it's not right in their face, to deter bugs, that's fine. If you want to mix a little bit in, but you can't use cedar shavings, you'll kill your birds. You can actually kill them that way, using aromatics. Don't use things like citronella around them, that kind of stuff. Don't put tea tree all over them, because if they will groom themselves, and if they ingest tea tree, they're very likely to kill themselves, because tea tree oil ingested can be fatal. Rules for birds are different than rules for human beings or other mammals. You just need to learn that. Some things are safe for cats are not safe for birds. Don't cross-treat with medications that are not intended for the animal that you're treating, that kind of thing. So when you get chicks, please learn all you can learn while you're watching them be cute in the brooder and lay down like they're dead. I mean, they can scare you sometimes. They sleep so soundly. But please learn. Don't just throw them in there and think I just wait for them to grow up and then throw them in a coop. Or worse, throw them out into a barn that's not heated when you first get them, and they'll all be dead the next morning. I mean, if it's cold at all, it has to be at least 90 degrees in at least one part of the area that they're in so they can get under a heat source. Has to be. Don't keep it where they have to stay under the heat source, because they can overheat. They will get in and out from the heat source, the heat spot that you provide, depending on how they feel. Oh my goodness, Bash, you look at him stretching out in the sun trying to get every single ray. Oh my goodness, boy, you look a sight. You don't. Actually, he's playing. That's the dead chicken pose right there. Oh my God. Anyway, oops, sorry. I have found out I got a gimbal for my cell phone. Let me tell you, I hate recording with a cell phone. Hate it with a passion. I hate cell phones. In the gimbal, it's flying all over the place, and having to manipulate it and the way it feels in my hand. The gimbal itself is good. It's a good one. However, I hate it. I hate recording with a cell phone. One problem is I can't see. I'm very nearsighted. Therefore, I can see if it's right close up as long as I don't have my glasses on. If I have my glasses on, I can't even see a computer monitor clearly. I have to have my glasses for distance, and I have to have computer glasses. Monitor glasses, I guess they call them sometimes. So I can't even see the app that's on there, all the settings and everything, without taking my glasses on and off. And it's just a royal pain. So we're going old school. This is a Canon EOS M50 camera. It doesn't even have a good zoom on it. It's got a short range zoom, not a very long range zoom. Doesn't even have that on it. I have a little handheld gimbal, a little shorty that doesn't float. It's a stationary one, so that I don't have to hold the camera with two hands. I can just hold the gimbal with one. And this is all I can manage. I can't stand it. I can't stand cell phones. I have one for emergencies, but I swear I just don't think I wanted it after this year. Only reason I got it was because our track phone that we buy minutes on, they lost our account. They couldn't figure out how to get us into our account, and they wouldn't help us get into our account to do anything. So we're kind of flying blind. We can buy minutes phones as long as that phone is working. That little crappy phone is really ancient. But, and my husband carries that one. I have the other one, but it's too big. It's just huge. It's great for seeing a screen, but it's just really big for carrying around. I hate that. I'd rather go without one, truthfully. Just rather not have it. So after the year of service, I think I'll give it up. I don't want to pay for it no more. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, but this is why this may not be the smoothest video in the world, because I don't have a great zoom, and it's however steady I can hold it, okay? So, boy, Bash, you're just taking you a long snooze, aren't you, buddy? I'm rewatching the TV series Reign, R-E-I-G-N, Reign. It's chronicling the life of Mary, Queen of Scots, but it is it's fictionalized, a lot of it. But Francis, who was the son of King Henry, he was due to be he's a prince then, and when he married Mary, Queen of Scots, and his half brother, who was illegitimate, born with his father's mistress. And I don't know if this is even true. I don't know if he even had a half brother like this, but his name was Sebastian, and they call him Bash, and that's where my rooster got his name. Bash, are you having a hard time swallowing today? See, he shakes his head. I'm going to check him out again. I don't know what's going on, but it just may be something I can't fix. A lot of times when you got something that you can fix on a bird, what'd you see up there, buddy? What do you see? When you can fix something, a lot of times when they get old, their body doesn't function as well. And then something you could have easily fixed, when they were young, it just doesn't work like that when they're old, The body breaks down, so. I know he looks vital and big and everything, but he is about 8 years, almost 8 years old. But people getting these chicks, and if you ever decide to buy a bird to add to your flock, I mean, hatchery chicks direct from a hatchery, and they haven't had, unless they have an egg-borne disease that they get in the egg, which is more rare than horizontal transmission bird to bird, unless, they're the safer bet, but you can't put chicks in with adults. You realize you can't just throw chicks in with adults. They will kill them. Even a broody hen who's raising her own chicks, if there's another chick that comes in there, she won't automatically take it. A lot of times she'll kill it because she knows it's not hers. But if you ever decide to add to your flock later, and you are tempted to buy somebody's birds, say somebody's getting rid of 3 hens that they don't want anymore, that they're getting out of chickens, or they just don't want that breed anymore, or whatever, and they're selling 3 laying hens, never ever put them in your flock. Don't bring them home and throw them in there, because you may have just killed your own flock. You can't tell if a bird is 100% healthy by looking at it. You can't. They may look spectacular, but you don't know if they're a carrier of something, mycoplasmosis or infectious coryza. You don't know if they're carrying that. You have to put them in quarantine. People say, oh, just quarantine them for a week, it'll be okay. No. You know how long it takes for Merrick's disease, a Merrick's carrier, to maybe show symptoms of having it? Or say if they were just exposed and you buy these birds from somebody, you know how long it takes them to show the symptoms so you know something's wrong with it? It can be a month, or it can be 12 weeks. You have to quarantine every bird you get. That quarantine's still not a guarantee. But during that time, at least you can see if the bird is ill. And if the bird is ill, never add them to your flock. I'm telling you. It's a hard truth that you sometimes have to cull, aka euthanize, chickens. I've done it on occasion. It's very hard for me. It's near to impossible for my husband. But sometimes we are left with no choice. We're just left with no choice. And it's easier to euthanize an animal if they're already non-responsive and on their last legs, and they will be dead by morning anyway. It's easier to do that. Most of the time, if I have one that's dying of old age and nobody's picking on it, and they just they're doing okay, they're just sleeping a lot, they're going, sometimes I just let them stay with their family, so to speak, until the end. other times, if they're being picked on, I might pick them up and take them and put them in a hospital cage. But when you quarantine animals before you put them in your flock, I recommend 6 weeks. In that time, do not, no matter what you see, give them antibiotics, ever. Because none of the diseases I'm talking about keeping out of your flock are cured by antibiotics. The symptoms may be alleviated, but these diseases can stay in the body forever, and they can infect others even when they are asymptomatic. The 2 things you can do when you're quarantining a bird, one thing you can do is treat for lice and mites, and you can worm them. You don't know how they were cared for before they got to you if you're buying adult birds or even older chicks. You don't know. You don't know if they have the first the only bird I ever bought was when my flock was about 10 months old, my first flock. And when he came to me, that poor boy, he didn't have any bad illness. He'd been sitting in a swamp basically, so he had some respiratory stuff from sitting in a wet environment, but it wasn't a contagious thing. And you know, you treat that, but he had a very vigorous case of lice running highways all over his backside. And so while he was in a 6-week quarantine, I treated him for lice and mites and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I would never have given him antibiotics to hide symptoms of something. And then you have to be fairly sure it's not a contagious thing. You've got to be sure. And sometimes you can't be sure. It's easier to have a policy to not buy started birds from any individual, any flea market, any auction, where people sell their problems, either purposefully or in ignorance, one or the other. And once you have a flock, if you have a rooster, you can hatch your own. Yes, you'll have to deal with extra roosters because most of the time, and you can't change the sex of the chicken and egg. You can't do it. I don't care what people are going to tell you. All the old farmers' tales are ridiculous. So, I know this is kind of a boring video. I'm just talking and watching chickens while I do it. If I go in the barn, you won't be able to hear me say anything, as you can tell. But quarantine is so you don't add a problem to your flock. Not just so you can see what's wrong with them and give them antibiotics, that's the worst thing you can do. So after that, I had a policy, never, ever, ever, ever buy birds from individuals, because I know of cases where people have bought chicks and they've brought disease into their flock from an individual who had a dirty flock. When I say dirty flock, I don't mean dirt-wise. I mean dirty as far as infected with something. And even NPIP breeders have been known to sell birds that were carriers of something. It's irresponsible, it's fraudulent, but it happens. You got to protect yourself. So, that's just a few hints about getting started in chickens. I mean, I could talk for 3 hours on just raising chicks, but we don't have that kind of time. Been 18 minutes or so, I think, already. Or maybe a little bit more than that. I don't know. I think I started this in 2 parts. I stopped it and started again. But anyway, I think I'm going to put a clip at the end of how we solved, or we may have solved, our rat problem. We solved the immediate problem. There's other things that need to be done, but I'll show you that clip. And so, if you have any questions about stuff, put them below. It's okay. You can ask questions. I won't always have the answers. If I don't really know the answer, I'll tell you. But I've seen a lot of things that no chicken raising book will ever tell you. They won't. You won't believe the things I've said. Or you will if you've ever seen my videos for very long about chicken health. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and show you the concreted back section in the coop. I don't know what the heck's going on under the wood floors. If rats start chewing up through the wood floors, we got a major problem beyond just filling some holes and putting a barrier so they can't get back in, because I can't block those off. So here you go. Have a good day, but watch the video about it's about to come up here. Well, here is the finished concrete, at least the part finished as far as I know. No mice in there, no rats in there last night. I do see a problem though, as I'm opening this back door. Now this, we didn't have a float. We didn't have a mixing hoe. We have one, but along with our pointed hoe, it has gone to some other planet. Well, I've looked all over this property for that. I don't know where they are. So I just use a regular garden hoe to mix up the stuff in a wheelbarrow. And it's got fence wire tacked into the ground. And along that edge, there's some hardware cloth. You can see it. It's in an L-shaped, because that's where they were coming in all the time, is that end. Well, I see one more problem that I didn't even see yesterday. Down in here. You see that? That's not big enough for a rat to come through, but they've tunneled all under this edge here, apparently. So I'm going to have to shoot something into that hole. And I did shoot something into this one, but I can see now that it didn't really totally fill it. So I'm going to have to do some more in there, but that, you can't come too far up because the door has to close down the track. Just can't come above the surface. But this, as far as I know, they're not going to be able to come up through here. Now, whether or not they can come up somewhere else, if they start chewing through the floor, I don't know what the heck I can do about that, because all these floors are built on top of the M10 gravel pad, and they have plastic laid down, the heavy black plastic you saw. I don't know what I'll do if they start chewing through the floor or something, but yeah, I gotta fix that. There's a piece of metal there, so only what can squeeze through can get through there. The metal flashing, the metal track on the door, and the metal of this piece that's down here, part of the frame that backs the this thing right here. It's open in the middle, so whatever can travel straight through it. So I don't know, but at least so far last night there was nothing. Now we'll see if mice can get in around that corrugated door. Nothing I can do about that. But other than that, at least one night of no rats. And I wish this was smoother. I mean, we could always float a thin layer if we could get a decent float with a handle on it. But I was doing it with a piece of 2x4, using that as a screed, and I can't reach to the center. I mean, my arms are only so long. I'm not an orangutan, so my arms are, and my husband can't bend over and do that. So he was shoveling it in while I was trying to spread it out as much as I could. And it is what it is. At least it's not a dirt floor anymore right back here. But if there's other rats under the floor somewhere, God help us all. I don't know what I'll do about that. I just don't know. All the wooden coops that we built over the years, we never had a rodent problem. We just never had one. I think in one of the oldest building we had on this property, when I made it into a coop, it ended up, I get a mouse in there once in a while because it wasn't built as a chicken coop. It was built as a storage barn. So, I don't know. But for now, this has solved the immediate rat problem inside, coming in and out. They just had a highway. But like I said, I can, if I could find a decent float, I could actually put a thin layer of over the top, and add to this if I have to, because you see plenty of room up to the floor, so I could do that. It's just that, man, I'm not gonna have to lift weights for a couple of days because, oh my gosh, my arms. I did set up the game camera right there. See if I can see the chicken's reaction to a concrete floor. They've never seen one. Okay, so there you go. There's what's going on at the moment.